let's see, it says release of which is directly impaired. The real question is, what does glycine do? Stimulates. Interesting. So if I block glycine, then I have less stimulation. This patient was all rigid, yeah? So maybe it's the other way around. Maybe I want you to remember that in the brain, let's do this here, our spinal cord. I want you to remember that GABA is the main inhibitor in the brain. That's right, Jackie. And glycine is its younger brother, the main inhibitor in the spinal cord. Okay? So if I inhibit the inhibitor, guess what? Too much stimulation. Then what happens? Stiff, rigid. You see that? The rhesus sardonicus. What is that? The rhesus sardonicus. They look like this. Okay. You got it? Make sense? GABA is the main inhibitor. Glycine is the main inhibitor. Take these notes. GABA is the main inhibitor. Glycine is the main inhibitor as well. GABA in the brain, glycine in the spinal cord. Okay. So if I stimulate GABA, well then guess what? We're gonna slow down, right? Go ahead and give me some words that mean slowing down. They're not gonna say the word slow down. They're gonna give me what else? What's another word for slowing down? Sleepy. I love it. Depressed. Absolutely. Yeah. What else? I see sleepy. Lethargic. Maybe somnolent, fatigue. Absolutely. You see that? So all I want you to register is that there is a slowing down of processes. So what I'm trying to show you here is a process, a way to think, right? When you're trying to come up with complications, you're saying, okay, is this very sympathetic in nature? Is this parasympathetic? Is it stimulatory? Is it inhibitory? And you say, okay, well, how does that affect the body? Instead of trying to remember a bunch of small details, I say, just draw your anatomical man, right? More or less. Mm-hmm. And then just ask yourself, how does that affect the brain, for example? The heart? How does it affect the kidneys? See that? How does it affect muscle? How does it affect muscle? That's very important. When I say muscle, I'm talking about skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, or even heart muscle, cardiac muscle. Whenever you're thinking of complications to whatever disease, okay, I want to discuss each and every one of these. Super, super important. Starting off with serotonin. Our friend serotonin, for those of you that don't know, serotonin, 5-HT, or also known as 5-HIAA. Please remember that, everybody. I know you'll be looking for serotonin in the vignette, and then they'll say 5-HT or 5-HIAA. It's just a very bizarre way of spelling serotonin. That's how I remember it. The poor souls, they forgot how to spell serotonin. Okay, that's all. What I need you to remember is that serotonin has a very unique mechanism of action. For example, who takes serotonin? Who needs serotonin? Depressed people, right? Depressed. People who are depressed, are they up or are they down? Down, right? They're feeling down, absolutely. So if they're feeling down, then technically speaking, serotonin's an upper, right? So I would say he's sympathetic, right? Because that's an upper, right? But that's again in the brain. But wait a minute. Have we not heard of a disease called carcinoid syndrome? VFDR. Right there. That stands for bronchospasm, flushing, diarrhea, and right heart failure. Bronchospasm, flushing, diarrhea, and right heart failure. Now I ask you, bronchospasm, flushing, diarrhea, right heart failure. Does that sound sympathetic or parasympathetic to all of you? Bronchospasm, flushing, diarrhea, right heart failure. Does that sound sympathetic or parasympathetic? Absolutely parasympathetic. See that? Well, wait a minute, but you just told me that serotonin was sympathetic. Unless it changes depending on where it's found. So in the CNS, serotonin is sympathetic. In the PNS, serotonin is parasympathetic. Interesting. This is how I know this to be true. Many of you are probably drinking coffee right now. That coffee is going to increase cyclic AMP, which just so happens to be the second messenger of serotonin. down here. Cyclic AMP happens to be the second messenger of serotonin. Coffee increases cyclic AMP. Serotonin is going to go to the reticular activating system, which is responsible for focus and attention. Ooh. So as I can see, coffee is stimulating my reticular activating system. It's stimulating my focus, my attention. That's the reason why we drink coffee, right? Here's the issue. You're increasing serotonin. That serotonin eventually makes it down to the parasympathetic, i.e. the PNS, i.e. maybe not bronchospasm, maybe some flushing, and very possible, little diarrhea, right? Little urination, right. Maybe some of you are in the bathroom right now for all I know. Okay. What about dopamine? When we think of dopamine, what do we think of? What if I were to block dopamine?
Decrease
movement.
Not necessarily decrease movement, but definitely a movement disorder, correct?
Yes.
And what does dopamine block? It blocks a specific
Prolactin.
hormone. Prolactin, don't forget that dopamine inhibits prolactin. So if I inhibit dopamine, can I inhibit prolactin?
No.
Well, and here's another thing. What does prolactin, little quick endo connection, what does prolactin inhibit?
GnRH.
GnRH. And what is GnRH responsible for?
FSH, LH.
Oh, look at that. So we're not going to have sexual disturbances every time I inhibit dopamine. Who takes drugs that need to, in which you inhibit dopamine?
Parkinson.
And then if they have Parkinson's, they don't have any dopamine. So therefore you give them dopamine, such as which drugs? Right? Carbeduline, very nice. Bromocriptine, absolutely. Benchtropine even has a unique ability of increasing dopamine. Dopamine is released from the substantia nigra, correct?
Yes.
This substantia nigra will release the dopamine will therefore go to the caudate and the putamen. From the caudate and the putamen, they will go to the globus pallidus. You say, well, what do they do to the globus pallidus? They inhibit the globus pallidus. You say, well, why? Why are they inhibiting the globus pallidus? Well, it's because the globus pallidus, he is trying to inhibit the thalamus. You say, oh. And what's the thalamus trying to do? Well, he's trying to assist with some movements. He assists with movement. And the globus pallidus, of course, right? Every hater has a friend. Misery loves company. So the globus pallidus has a friend as well, called the subthalamic nucleus. And the subthalamic nucleus, like I said, is a friend. So, what that means is, if I have an issue with the caudate, can I inhibit the globus pallidus?
No.
Who has problems with the caudate? What type of disease has a caudate issue?
Huntington.
Huntington's. Look at that. What about if a patient has problems of the thalamic nucleus? What would happen? Yeah, hemibolismus. But what is that? Just movement disorders, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice, very good. What if this entire area gets filled with bilirubin? What's that called? Oh, connectors. Wouldn't that lead to movement issues?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. How about if this was filled with copper? Like in Wilson. Oh, come on now. Really? All right. How about this? The caudate and the putamen are called the striatum. Striatal nucleus or striatum. And the putamen and globus pallidus are known as your lenticular nucleus. And together, the blood supply that goes to this area, can you guess what it's called?
Lenticular striatum.
Get out of here. Ventricular striatal arteries. What you need to understand about the ventricular striatal arteries is that they are one of the smallest arteries found within the brain. Which means that they are most susceptible to hypertension and therefore rupture. Ever heard of a lacunar stroke?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lacunar hemorrhages.
Yes.
Don't they present with, lacunar infarct? That's right, timing. Don't they present with, I don't know, movement disturbance? Can't be, right? Can't be that simple in a way, yeah? I'm trying to simplify for you. All right, beautiful, beautiful, good.